Greetings, dear people. Today I have come to you with an excellent story. Listen to the story many times, and if you engrave the message it contains in your life, you will attract abundance and abundance to your life. Let's start. In a faraway valley surrounded by mountains and often shrouded in mist, there was a small monastery, as the Temple of Silence. The pine trees around the temple always danced with the wind, whispering as if they spoke in a secret language. The head monk of the temple, Master Rain, had lived in this sacred place for years and had turned it into a haven of wisdom. Master Rain had spent his life diving into the depths of simplicity and silence. Every moment, every breath he took was wrapped in a silence filled with profound wisdom. As you entered the temple, you were greeted by an overwhelming wave of peace. Nothing was rushed here. Even the boiling of water for tea felt like meditation. Master Rain had found the cycle of life in everything within the temple, in the steam of a teapot, in the whispering of the wind, or in the stillness of a stone that had remained unmoved for centuries. Most of the people who came to this temple were travelers seeking enlightenment. One day, a young student named Karan arrived at the temple, walking from the foothills of the valley. Karan had lived a difficult life. In his home village, war, famine, and suffering were daily realities. Seeking to escape this turbulent world and find himself, Karan had come to the Temple of Silence. His goal was to find peace, to still the storm in his mind, and to discover his inner voice in the temple's quiet. When he arrived, Master Rain greeted him at the door. The master looked at Karan with eyes that held deep wisdom. At first, Karan was unsettled by the calm but intense gaze of the master. But after a moment, the silence in those eyes enveloped him, and the chaos inside him settled, even if only for a brief moment. Karan silently bowed in respect and knelt before the master. His mind was filled with questions, but he didn't yet have the courage to ask. The master said only this: "Do not be satisfied with the shadow of the trees, but wait quietly in the shade to walk into the light. Taste the emptiness within the tea more than the tea itself. That emptiness will find you." Karan didn't understand these words, but he hadn't come here to find answers. He had come to lose himself. So he set aside the questions in his head and followed the master. The master led him to the temple garden, under a giant pine tree. Its branches stretched toward the sky, as if they reached beyond time. The master silently took a cushion, placed it on the ground, and sat down. He then gestured for Karan to do the same. Days passed one after the other. Every morning, Karan sat in meditation under the tree, but his mind refused to calm. The pains, fears, and anxieties from his past, all of them swirled like a storm in his mind during meditation. Master Rain remained silent, never speaking to Karan, only sitting with him and sharing the silence. The master's silence was as deep as an ocean, while Karan's mind was like a small boat tossed around in a storm on that same ocean. Days passed one after the other. Every morning, Karan sat in meditation under the tree, but his mind refused to calm. The pains, fears, and anxieties from his past, all of them swirled like a storm in his mind during meditation. Master Rain remained silent, never speaking to Karan, only sitting with him and sharing the silence. The master's silence was as deep as an ocean, while Karan's mind was like a small boat tossed around in a storm on that same ocean. One day, Karan could no longer hold back and asked the master, "Master, why are you silent? Why don't you guide me? My mind is a mess, and even in meditation, I can't quiet it. How will I find peace?" Master Rain slowly opened his eyes and smiled gently. Then he said, "Think of a river. When the waters are turbulent, can you see the stones at the bottom?" Karan thought for a moment. "No, I can't." The master continued, "Then you must calm the water. What do you do to make the water still?" After thinking for a while, Karan answered softly, "Nothing. The water stills itself." The master nodded slightly. The mind is the same. The more you struggle with it, the more it ripples. Let it still itself. These words echoed in Karan's mind, yet he still didn't fully understand. Part of him wanted to follow the master's advice, but the chaos inside him wouldn't let go. However, the calm he saw in the master's eyes urged him to be patient. Over time, he began to believe that, like the water the master spoke of, his mind would eventually settle. Days passed. Every morning, Charon continued to meditate under the same tree. Over time, his mind resisted less, and the turmoil began to fade. The painful memories, disappointments, and fears, they all slowly receded from the surface, like waves retreating. Charon could finally start to see the stones at the bottom of the water. Those stones were the foundations of his being: love, breath, the essence of life itself. They had always been there, but he couldn't see them because of the ripples. One morning, while meditating, Charon's mind suddenly became completely still. He experienced a moment where everything simply was as it is. There was no past, no future, no worrying. He was just there, in that moment. He could hear the wind rustling the branches of the trees, the birds singing, and the beating of his heart. This moment felt like eternity to him, like a drop of dew shimmering in the sunlight before evaporating. He realized that life was transient, but perfect in its imperfection. In that instant, Charon understood that the answer he sought had never been outside of him. It had always been within. He just needed to quiet down and allow the answer to come to him. When he finished his meditation and opened his eyes, the master was standing in front of him. There was a deep wisdom and a gentle smile in his eyes. "Now," the master said, "you no longer ask questions." Charon smiled slightly at the master's words. It was true, he had no more questions, because he now knew that all the answers were hidden within the silence. And that silence wasn't just in the forest, the temple, or the master's words. It was in every moment, deep within his own heart. As time passed, Charon remained at the temple of silence. Master Rain continued to guide him, but he never gave him direct answers. For Charon now understood that the master's guidance wasn't in words, but in silence and in the very essence of existence. One day, Charon decided to leave the temple, not to escape, but to return to life. He now knew he could find silence even in the midst of chaos. As he said his goodbyes, the master looked at him one last time and said, "Remember, silence will find you. If you chase it, it will flee. Let it come." As Charon walked out of the temple gate, he heard the song of a bird. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the scent of pine trees to his face. The silence within him had now become one with the world outside. Our story ends here. You can understand this story better by watching it a few more times. Like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Remember that the people you love also need to hear this story. Stay with love. See you soon.